Hey everyone, welcome back. I need to tell you about something that's happening right now, in real time, that mental health professionals are quietly discussing but most people have no idea about. Narcissists are collapsing, and I don't mean they're having bad days or going through rough patches. I mean full psychological breakdowns at rates we've never seen before. If you're dealing with a narcissist in your life, whether it's a partner, a parent, a coworker, or a friend, what I'm about to share could quite literally protect you from serious harm. Because when narcissists collapse, they don't just fall apart quietly. They take everyone around them down with them if they can. And 2025 has created the perfect storm of conditions that are causing these collapses to happen faster, harder, and more frequently than any other time in recent history. By the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly what's happening, why it's happening now, and most critically, how to protect yourself if you're anywhere near a narcissist who's in the process of collapsing. Before we dive in, if you're getting value from this content, hit that like button right now. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications because this is information that could genuinely protect you. And drop a comment telling me, have you noticed narcissists in your life becoming more unstable lately? Let's talk about it. Now, let's get into this. First, let's make sure we're all on the same page about what narcissistic collapse actually means, because this isn't a term most people are familiar with, but it's critical to understand. Narcissistic collapse is a psychological term that describes what happens when a narcissist's carefully constructed false self can no longer be maintained. See, narcissists don't have a stable sense of self like most people do. Their entire identity is built on external validation, control over others, and a grandiose image they project to the world. When that structure starts cracking, when the supply of admiration dries up, when their manipulations stop working, when people start seeing through them, the narcissist doesn't just feel bad. Their entire psychological framework collapses. It's not depression. It's not a midlife crisis. It's a complete identity disintegration, and that's when they become truly dangerous. Now, narcissistic collapse has always existed. But something is different about 2025. Multiple factors have converged simultaneously that are stripping away the conditions narcissists need to maintain their false selves. And we're seeing the results play out in real time. Therapists are reporting dramatic increases in clients dealing with collapsing narcissists. Domestic violence organizations are seeing spikes in extreme cases. Divorce attorneys are handling more high-conflict separations involving personality-disordered individuals. This isn't anecdotal. This is a measurable phenomenon. So, what's causing it? Why now? And what does this mean for you if you're connected to a narcissist? Let's break it down. Number 1. The digital exposure era has destroyed the narcissist's ability to maintain multiple false personas. Here's something that previous generations of narcissists had that 2025 narcissists don't: compartmentalization. 20 years ago, a narcissist could be one person at work, another person at home, another person with friends, and another person with their family. These circles rarely overlapped, and even when they did, there was no permanent record of contradictions. But social media, digital communication, and interconnected networks have obliterated those boundaries. Everything is recorded now. Screenshots exist. Digital footprints are permanent. The guy who presents as a devoted family man on Facebook gets exposed when his dating app profiles surface. The woman who plays the victim in one friend group gets caught when those friends compare notes with the other group where she plays the hero. The professional who maintains a polished LinkedIn persona gets exposed when former employees share their experiences on Glassdoor or Reddit. Narcissists relied on controlling information flow. They would tell different stories to different people, knowing those people would never compare notes. But now, everyone's talking, everyone's connected, and the contradictions in the narcissist's various personas become visible. When a narcissist gets caught in irreconcilable lies, when their different masks are revealed simultaneously, it triggers collapse. They can't maintain the cognitive dissonance. They can't gaslight effectively when there's documented proof. And they spiral. We're seeing this manifest in real time. Narcissists who've maintained double lives for decades are being exposed overnight, and they're not handling it well. The rage, the desperation, the attempts to control the narrative become increasingly unhinged. If you're connected to a narcissist who's being exposed digitally, understand that you're dealing with someone in extreme psychological crisis. They will lash out. They will blame everyone but themselves. And they will try to destroy anyone they perceive as responsible for their exposure. Document everything. Keep records of all communications, and create distance immediately if possible. Number 2. Social accountability has reached levels that narcissistic personalities cannot adapt to. There's been a massive cultural shift in how we collectively respond to toxic behavior, and narcissists are struggling to navigate it. Terms like gaslighting, love bombing, hoovering, and trauma bonding are now mainstream. People recognize manipulation tactics that previous generations never had language for. Younger people especially have developed an almost intuitive ability to spot narcissistic red flags early. They've grown up watching these dynamics play out publicly. They've been educated about toxic behavior through social media psychology content, and they have zero tolerance for it. This creates a huge problem for narcissists who relied on ignorance and isolation to maintain control. When someone calls out a narcissist's behavior by name, when they say that's gaslighting or that's a smear campaign or that's hoovering, the narcissist loses the power of confusion. Their tactics become visible. Even worse, for narcissists, there's now social consequence for this behavior in ways that didn't exist before. Cancel culture, whatever you think about it, has made public accountability a real threat. Me Too movement and similar social reckonings have created environments where victims are more likely to be believed and supported. Narcissists who could previously charm their way out of accusations or intimidate victims into silence are finding that strategy no longer works reliably. And when accountability closes in, when the narcissist realizes they can't manipulate their way out, collapse accelerates. We're seeing narcissists who've gotten away with toxic behavior for years suddenly facing consequences, and they have no coping mechanisms for it. Their response is often to double down, become more aggressive, launch preemptive smear campaigns, or completely fall apart. If a narcissist in your life is facing social accountability for the first time, recognize that this is a high-risk period. They're cornered, and cornered narcissists are incredibly dangerous. They will fight back with everything they have. Protect your reputation proactively. Get ahead of potential smear campaigns by sharing your experience with trusted people before the narcissist can control the narrative. And, most importantly, don't engage in their attempts to provoke you into reactions they can use against you. Number 3. Remote work and digital communication have eliminated primary narcissistic supply sources. This one is huge and really underappreciated. Think about where narcissists traditionally got their supply, the constant validation and attention they need to function. It was from captive audiences at work. The office environment was perfect for narcissists. Daily interactions where they could perform, control social dynamics, take credit for others' work, and maintain their image as competent and important. They had colleagues forced to interact with them regularly, subordinates they could dominate, and professional settings that legitimized their grandiose self-perception. Then 2020 happened, and even though we're past the pandemic, work dynamics have permanently changed. Remote work is now standard in many industries. Digital communication has replaced in-person interaction, and narcissists are starving. You can't manipulate as effectively over Zoom as you can in person. You can't dominate a room when there is no room. You can't read and exploit people's micro-expressions through a screen. You can't corner someone by their desk for a private manipulation session. The casual daily interactions that narcissists used to feed on are gone. Even narcissists who've returned to office environments are dealing with hybrid models where their audience is inconsistent. They're also facing younger workers who have completely different expectations about workplace behavior and won't tolerate the toxic dynamics that previous generations normalized. This supply drought is causing collapses. Narcissists who built their entire identity around professional image and workplace dominance are deteriorating without that consistent validation. They're becoming more demanding, more volatile, and more desperate in their remaining relationships because they're trying to extract from personal connections what they used to get from professional ones. If you're in a relationship with a narcissist who lost their workplace supply, you've probably noticed they've become needier, more controlling, and more critical. They're extracting more from you to compensate. Understand, this isn't about you. It's about their supply crisis, and it will likely get worse before it gets better. Set firm boundaries around how much emotional labor and validation you're willing to provide. Don't try to fill the void their workplace used to fill. You can't, and trying will destroy you. Number 4. Economic instability has stripped away the financial masks many narcissists were hiding behind. Money has always been a tool narcissists use for control, status, and image maintenance. But 2025's economic landscape, inflation, housing costs, job market instability has created financial pressure that's exposing narcissists who were barely maintaining their lifestyle facade. See, many narcissists live beyond their means specifically to maintain a grandiose image, the luxury car they can't actually afford, the house that's mortgaged to the limit, the designer clothes bought on credit, the expensive dinners and trips they use to impress others. All of this is image maintenance, not actual wealth. When economic pressure increases, this house of cards collapses. Suddenly, they can't keep up appearances. The car gets repossessed. The house goes into foreclosure. The credit cards max out, and the narcissist's carefully constructed image of success disintegrates publicly. For a narcissist whose entire identity is built on perceived status and success, this is psychological death. They can't handle being seen as ordinary, struggling, or especially as failing. The shame is unbearable, but since narcissists can't process shame healthily, it converts into rage and blame. They'll blame the economy, their employer, their partner, the government, anyone and anything except their own choices. We're also seeing a related phenomenon. Narcissists who used financial control to dominate their partners are losing that leverage. When both partners are struggling financially, the narcissist can't use money as effectively to maintain control. If the victim was financially dependent and that dependency decreases, the narcissist loses a primary control mechanism. This triggers collapse because the narcissist feels their grip loosening. If you're financially entangled with a collapsing narcissist, this is critical. Separate your finances immediately if possible. Open your own bank account they don't have access to. Document all joint assets. Protect your credit. Collapsing narcissists often engage in financial sabotage, either to punish you or because they're spiraling and making increasingly irrational decisions. They might drain joint accounts, run up debt in your name, or refuse to pay agreed-upon expenses out of spite. Protect yourself financially before they drag you into their collapse. Consult with a financial advisor or attorney about how to legally separate your finances and protect your assets. Don't wait until it's too late. Number 5. Younger generations have developed narcissist detection skills that previous generations never had. This is genuinely fascinating from a cultural psychology perspective. Gen Z and younger millennials have grown up with unprecedented access to psychology education through social media. They've watched toxic relationship dynamics play out publicly on reality TV, social media drama, and celebrity culture. They've had access to therapists, coaches, and educators breaking down manipulation tactics on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, and they've developed a collective literacy around narcissism and toxic behavior that's actually remarkable. Where previous generations might have stayed in toxic relationships for years, trying to fix things or figure out what was wrong, younger people now recognize red flags within weeks or even days. They know what love bombing looks like. They recognize when someone's rushing intimacy. They spot triangulation, future faking, and performative empathy. And, critically, they're willing to walk away immediately when they see these patterns. This creates a huge problem for narcissists trying to establish new supply sources. The pool of people willing to tolerate narcissistic behavior is shrinking rapidly. Younger people especially aren't buying the traditional narcissist playbook, the grand romantic gestures, the sob stories, the charismatic persona. These tactics that worked reliably for decades are now met with skepticism and boundary setting. Narcissists are having to work much harder to secure and maintain supply, and many simply can't adapt. They keep trying the same manipulation strategies that used to work, but they're failing, and repeated failure triggers collapse. We're seeing older narcissists especially struggling with this. They genuinely don't understand why their usual tactics aren't working anymore. Why aren't people falling for the charm? Why are they being called out so quickly? Why is everyone so sensitive and unwilling to give them chances? From their perspective, the world has become inexplicably hostile. They don't have the self-awareness to recognize that people have simply gotten better at recognizing manipulation. If you're younger and dealing with an older collapsing narcissist, whether it's a parent, an older partner, or a boss, understand that your boundary setting and refusal to engage with their toxicity might be contributing to their collapse. That's not your fault or your responsibility to fix. In fact, it's healthy. But recognize that they may become increasingly desperate and aggressive as they realize their usual strategies don't work on you. Stay firm in your boundaries. Don't feel guilty for protecting yourself. And be prepared for escalation before they either give up or find easier targets. Number 6. The 7 stages of narcissistic collapse and how to protect yourself at each stage. Understanding the collapse progression is critical because each stage requires different protective strategies. Stage 1 is denial and doubling down. When the narcissist first starts losing control or facing consequences, they don't accept it. Instead, they become more narcissistic. More grandiose claims, more aggressive manipulation, more intense love bombing or intimidation depending on their style. Protection strategy. Document everything starting now. This is when you gather evidence of their behavior while they're escalating. Don't confront directly. Just observe and record. Stage 2 is rage and blame. When denial doesn't work, narcissistic rage emerges. They lash out at everyone around them, especially anyone they perceive as responsible for their problems. This is the smear campaign stage. Protection strategy. Implement strict boundaries. Gray rock method, minimal contact, no emotional engagement. Alert trusted people in your circle about potential smear campaigns so they hear your side first. Stage 3 is bargaining and hoovering. The narcissist realizes aggression isn't working, so they switch tactics. Suddenly, they're apologetic, promising to change, bringing up good memories, anything to pull you back in. Protection strategy. Recognize this as manipulation, not genuine change. Maintain your boundaries. Don't accept promises without sustained behavioral evidence over months, not days. Stage 4 is depression and victim playing. When nothing else works, the narcissist collapses into a victim identity. They're suddenly the most mistreated person ever. Everyone has wronged them. They might threaten self-harm or display helplessness. Protection strategy. Don't fall for the victim act. If they threaten self-harm, call appropriate authorities. Don't take personal responsibility. Maintain boundaries even when they seem pathetic. Stage 5 is isolation and deterioration. The narcissist withdraws from people who won't validate their victim narrative. Their functioning decreases. They may neglect responsibilities, appearance, relationships. Protection strategy. If you're still entangled, this is your window to extract yourself. They're less focused on controlling you and more focused on their internal crisis. Use this period strategically. Stage 6 is desperate tactics. When isolation becomes unbearable, the narcissist makes desperate attempts to regain control or supply. This might include stalking, showing up unannounced, manufacturing crises, or even violence in extreme cases. Protection strategy. This is the most dangerous stage. Consider restraining orders if necessary. Alert your workplace and neighbors. Have a safety plan. Take threats seriously. Stage 7 is either recovery into a new narcissistic structure or complete breakdown. Some narcissists find new supply sources and rebuild their false self with a new audience. Others deteriorate into severe mental health crises requiring professional intervention. Protection strategy. Whether they rebuild or break down, maintain your distance. Don't get pulled back in during either process. Number 7. Why collapsed narcissists are exponentially more dangerous and what you absolutely must do to protect yourself. This is the part you cannot ignore. When a narcissist collapses, the normal rules of engagement no longer apply. Here's why. Narcissists already lack empathy and have fragile egos, but they're usually regulated by self-interest. They don't typically destroy themselves because they're invested in their image and status. But during collapse, that self-preservation instinct breaks down. They're already losing everything in their perception, so they have nothing left to lose. This makes them capable of scorched earth behaviors they wouldn't normally engage in. They'll destroy their own reputation if it means destroying yours too. They'll sabotage their own life circumstances to punish you. They'll engage in illegal or dangerous behaviors because consequences no longer matter to them. Statistics on this are genuinely frightening. Domestic violence escalates dramatically during narcissistic collapse. Stalking behaviors increase. False accusations and legal harassment spike. In extreme cases, violence including murder-suicide scenarios are most likely during collapse periods. I'm not saying this to terrify you, but you need to take this seriously. If you're dealing with a collapsing narcissist, especially if you're leaving them or have recently left, you're in the highest risk period you'll ever face with this person. Here's what you must do. First, tell trusted people what's happening. Don't isolate yourself. The narcissist wants you isolated so they can control the narrative and access you without witnesses. Build your support network now. Second, document everything. Every text, email, voicemail, interaction. This protects you legally and establishes a pattern if you need restraining orders or legal intervention. Third, create physical safety plans. Change your locks. Vary your routines. Alert your workplace about not giving out information. Consider security systems. If you have children, ensure their school or daycare knows not to release them to the narcissist without your explicit permission. Fourth, protect your digital presence. Change passwords. Enable two-factor authentication. Check for tracking apps on your devices. Be careful about what you post on social media that could reveal your location or plans. Fifth, consider legal protection. Restraining orders, cease and desist letters, involving law enforcement if they violate boundaries. Don't hesitate to use legal systems to protect yourself. That's what they exist for. Sixth, get professional support. Therapist who specializes in narcissistic abuse. Support groups. Domestic violence resources if applicable. You need people who understand what you're dealing with and can provide appropriate guidance. And finally, trust your gut. If something feels dangerous, it probably is. Narcissists are often most dangerous right before and after you leave. If your instincts are telling you you're in danger, listen to them. Better to overreact to a false alarm than underreact to a genuine threat. So, there you have it. The unprecedented wave of narcissistic collapse happening in 2025, why it's happening, what it looks like, and how to protect yourself if you're anywhere near it. This isn't theoretical psychology. This is real-time social phenomenon that's affecting millions of people right now. The convergence of digital exposure, social accountability, Remote work impacts, economic pressure, and generational awareness has created conditions that narcissistic personalities simply cannot adapt to quickly enough. And we're seeing the results in real time. If you recognize someone in your life experiencing narcissistic collapse, I want you to understand something important. You cannot fix this. You cannot love them through it. You cannot logic them out of it. Narcissistic collapse requires professional intervention that most narcissists will refuse to seek because it would require admitting there's something wrong with them, which their psychology doesn't allow. Your only responsibility is protecting yourself. That's not selfish. That's survival. You didn't cause their collapse. You can't control their collapse, and you can't cure their collapse. But you can control your response to it. You can create boundaries. You can build support systems. You can document behavior. You can seek legal protection. You can physically distance yourself. And you can refuse to be destroyed by someone else's psychological breakdown. The narcissists who are collapsing right now are experiencing the natural consequences of decades of toxic behavior finally catching up with them in an environment that no longer enables it. That's not tragedy. That's accountability. Don't let their crisis become your trauma. If this video gave you clarity about what's happening in your life, or in lives around you, do me a favor, hit that like button right now. Share this video with someone who needs to understand narcissistic collapse. And subscribe to this channel because we're going to continue covering narcissism, manipulation, and psychological protection strategies that actually work. Drop a comment below and tell me, are you seeing signs of narcissistic collapse in someone you know? What patterns are you noticing? Let's document this phenomenon together and help each other navigate it safely. And if you want to go deeper on any of these topics, check out the videos I'm linking in the description about setting boundaries with narcissists, Gray Rock Method, and creating safety plans when leaving toxic relationships. Remember, knowledge is protection. The more you understand about what you're dealing with, the better equipped you are to protect yourself. Stay safe out there, trust your instincts, and never feel guilty for choosing your own well-being over someone else's dysfunction. I'll see you in the next video.